Yo, what up YouTube? Alright guys, so like I said in the previous video, we're gonna start working on the splash screen. Alright, one thing to point out, in the previous video when I was creating this project, I actually forgot to rename our project to mynodes underscore v1. Some of you already probably saw that and stuff, and then yeah, but it's not a train smash, it doesn't actually mean anything, but I named my application by mistake. So but it's fine. We're just going to continue from where we left off. So I just want to close all these tabs and all these activities and layouts before we begin. Alright, so now let's see. So again, like I said, I want to start with the splash screen. So the first thing I want to do is I want to come into the helper package that we created, and in here I want to create a custom class that's going to hold some things. Okay, for now let's just create a Java class. I'm going to call this string resource helper, right? Okay, and then here I just want to make a comment. Okay, alright, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a static class. A static property, right? So this is going to be a string, and I'm going to name this user detail pref, right? And this is just going to be the name called user. It's going to be user info. Now this property is it's what we're going to use to name our preferences object. Yeah, again, you will see that later on, but this is the property that we're going to use to name our preference object. So now I want to create a class in here that's going to return this particular what you call it, property here. So I'm going to say public, and then this is going to be static string, and then I'm going to call this get user detail pref name. And then all this method is going to do is return the user details pref. So it's basically just going to return this. I don't want to keep, because what happens is that every time we call the preferences object, we have to place the name of the preference that we're looking for. So the preferences object basically uses a name to identify which properties we're looking for and stuff, but again, you'll see that later on. So I'm gonna say I'm gonna just put a comment here as well. So again, for those of you who don't know, I like doing this because I have a tendency of getting lost when it comes to these parentheses and stuff. So normally I do this just to keep track of where certain things end and stuff. I think for now this is okay. We will get back to that. So let's go to the splash screen activity. So now at the top here, we're gonna call in the shared preferences. So I'm gonna say private then I'm just gonna call this preferences. Okay, alright, so within this method here, the onCreate method, let me put some space between that. So here we're gonna say get preferences. Alright, so here we're gonna say preferences equals to get shared preferences, and then remember, like I told you, this needs the object that we need is gonna have a name. So remember I said string. called it string resource helper dot get shared preference name, and then the mode is gonna be private. Alright, so now what we're gonna do here is that we're gonna get this object, right? Don't worry, we haven't created this yet. We're gonna deal with this within the login activity. So what this is, this splash screen, like I said, I want it to be the first thing that loads, and then we're gonna use these preferences. I'll show you now. We're gonna use this to check a certain value to see whether it's true or not. If it's not true, it's gonna redirect the user to the login screen. Otherwise, if it is true, it's gonna redirect the user to the main activity instead. Alright, so how we're gonna do this is, here we're gonna create a handler method. So I'm gonna say first, let me just call it rather than, so new handler dot post delayed dot post I think the one we need is this one, right? And then in here we have to say new runnable. Okay, so now right, and then here what we need to do is we're gonna let the splash screen run for like 5 seconds, right? So in here we just have to put 5,000 milliseconds, and then what do I need to do here? I'm gonna say end of alright. So in here, this is where we're gonna check to see if a user is authenticated or not. So now what we need to do is we're gonna need to create an if block. We're gonna say if preferences, right, dot, let's say get boolean, right? The boolean name is gonna be authenticated, right? And then from here we're gonna say false. So what this does is that I forgot to put in the brackets there. Then we need to do that, right? And then we're gonna put an else statement here. Okay. All right. So what happens here, like I said, is that like I said, don't worry about this. We haven't created or initiated or set up this object yet. We're gonna do that in the login activity. So what happens is that we need to check to see if this value is true or false. Otherwise, if it's not, the default value that it's going to return is this one. Now in this case, obviously this value isn't set yet, and it's not even created as of yet. So excuse me for that. Okay, so it's gonna check to see if this value is set to true or not. Otherwise, obviously, because it's not yet initiated, the default value that's going to be returned is false. So because it's false, what's gonna happen is that this is where we're gonna check, this is where we're gonna decide on where to redirect the user. So now down here I want to create a couple of methods, right? The first method is going to be public void let's say go to login activity, right? And then the other one is going to be public void go to main activity. So this is basically how we're gonna, these are the two methods we're gonna use to redirect the two users, I mean the user to where they need to go. So of rewriting this. I'm gonna paste it here as well. And then this one is going to be obviously main activity. So how are we going to do this? What we need to do here is call in this method. We're going to say intent, let's pull in this object, right, intent, which will equal to new intent, right. Then obviously we say splash activity dot this, and then we're gonna say we go into the login activity, right, dot class. Okay, so now what we need to do here is we will need to call another method, and then this one is going to be intent. Finish. Okay, why is this giving an error now? Create method, start activities. I think I pulled in the wrong method. The one we need is this one. So it's not start activities, it's start activity. Alright, so this is what we need to do. Then I need to copy this. Actually I'm wrong, this one is supposed to be main activity, and then this one is going to be login activity. Alright, so in Android this is how we redirect users to various activities. Like if you have activity 1 and activity 2, if you want to send the user to activity 2, or if you want to create a button where the user will click, and when the user clicks that button, it'll, maybe let's say you set it up to call this method, this is what it will basically do. Again, you'll see this as we go along. Alright, so now that we've created these two methods, like I said, up here what we need to do then is we're gonna say if the user is authenticated, right? If the user is authenticated, it needs to go to the main activity, right? Otherwise the user will be sent to the go to login activity. So this is what's going to happen here. The user will be checked to see if they are authenticated. Because this value is not even initiated or set up yet, by default it's going to return false, and because it returns false, it's going to take the user to, if it returns true, it will take the user to the main activity. Otherwise, because it's going to return false, it's going to take him to the login activity. Now before we test this, let's do this. I want to first come into the login activity, right? So I'm coming here within the resource folder to the layout and to the login form. I'm going to change this to split, right? So here I just want to create a text view. So I'm going to say text view, right? And then this will be wrap content. I want the text size to be, let's just say 40 SP, and then text itself will be login activity. Alright, and then we can just use that for now. Alright, I don't want to use a constraint layout because it's annoying to work with. I'm gonna just say linear layout, and then I want the gravity to be center. Alright, well obviously we're gonna change the design later on, and then now I want to do the exact same thing for the splash screen. So let's do this. The splash screen layouts, I'm going to split this as well, and I'm going to change this to use linear layouts. Yeah. I'm going to post this will be the splash screen activity. Let's reduce this to about 35 SP, and then the gravity as well for this one for the time being is going to be center. do that right? Linear layout, wrap content here, gravity center. Sorry, it's gravity. Alright, okay, so let's see, what else do we need? Alright, so that's the splash screen. And then now, like I said, because the by default, oh yeah, the one other thing we need to change is the manifest file, so we can close these two for now. Right, so the manifest file is within this manifest folder over here, and then we need to come in here. So now for the time being, the one activity that launches when the app is launched is the main activity. We need to change this to use the splash screen instead. So I'm going to copy this and then I'm going to paste it here, and then let's change that to main activity. Alright, and let's save that. Let me just check one last time if there's anything else we need. Launch, yep. Intent, this is true. The main activity false. Android, blah, blah, blah. Alright, I think this should be fine for now. Okay, so now to point out another thing, I have my phone, my actual physical phone, connected to my PC. I'm not going to use Android emulator because trying to run Android emulator while trying to record while running Android Studio is just going to be heavy for my machine. The machine that I'm using is quite low spec, and so like I showed you within the first the first video, I have an application called Samsung Flow, which allows me to mirror what's on my actual physical phone onto the screen here. So that's the application I'm using right now. Let me just show you. So it's this one, Samsung Flow. So that's what I'm using now to mirror what's happening on the screen. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to try and install this particular app onto my actual physical phone, and then it's going to launch, and then I will show you using Samsung Flow whether or not when you do open the app, does it first load the splash screen, and then will it take us to the login screen, etc. Alright, so now what I have to do now is, let's see, I need to unlock my phone. Alright, my phone is unlocked. Okay, so right now there's no app installed. I'm gonna come back now and just let this application install. So for the time being, all you have to do is just press the play button here, and what it's gonna do is gonna run the Gradle build and then install the application on the phone. So I'm gonna let that run, and then leave it to install, and then I'm gonna pause the video while it's doing that, and then once it's done installing, we're gonna test the app to see if all is working or not. Alright, again, one moment for me please. Alright guys, so the application is installed. Seems like there's no errors at the moment. What you're seeing there is just the console on the application. So let me just show you what's happening on my physical phone. So right now we're on the login screen. Let me actually change the theme to a light theme. Okay, so that's the login screen. I'm gonna close the application so that you see that when it loads, it first starts off by loading the the splash screen, and then from there on it takes us to the login screen. Okay, let's go back. So there's the application there. So when I click my application, the splash screen first starts off by loading. After 5 seconds, it takes us to the login screen. So as you can see, what we did here within the splash screen itself, the setup here is working. So like I said, it checks to see if the user is authenticated. If this authenticated value is set to true, it was going to take us to the main screen, but because it's not, it's taking us to the login screen. So while we're on the splash screen, I think we should proceed with designing the look of it. For now, let me just close and minimize this. We don't need it for now. So I'm just gonna, let's see, stop the application from running. Alright, so before we continue, I just wanna move on from the splash screen because the design of it is pretty much simple. So if we come back, let's leave the manifest file for the manifest file for now. I'm gonna open the layout for the splash screen. So basically this is how it looks for now. It looks at the moment, I mean. Just want to go to how it originally was set up. Okay, so initially what I had was a basic title, which was my notes, right? Okay, and then the layouts, let's see, the orientation needs to be vertical, right? Okay, and then from there on, what did I do? So the text size, I'm going to put it back to 40 sp, and then from there on I'll need to add in the image view. So it's going to be image view. Alright, so this is going to be about 300 dp, and then from there this needs to be about also 300 dp. Okay, and then what do I need to do after this? Just gonna give it an ID as well. Don't need to actually, but I'm just gonna give it a splash screen image. Alright, and then what else? And that's pretty much it. So now we need to get to the source. So we're gonna say source compact. Sorry, it's, let me give it a margin. For now I'm gonna say 50 dp. Alright, then we need to add the source here. So we're gonna say add drawable, and then we're gonna go for the, remember we named our splash screen image as splash screen, so we just select that, and then that's how it's supposed to show. Alright, so what else do we need? That's pretty much it, I think, for the splash screen. So I'm gonna save it. Now I'm gonna install it again on my own phone. It's gonna run the build. Where's the thing? It's gonna run the build, and then from there on it's gonna show that particular splash screen instead of just the text. Alright, I'm gonna pause it again, and then when it comes back I'll show you what it looks like. One moment for me, 2 minutes again for me, please. Alright guys, I'm back. Okay, so I'm gonna close the application. The installation is done. I'm gonna go back again. I'm gonna click on the app. As you can see, there's our splash screen, my notes, and then from there on it takes us to the login screen. So as you can see, seems like everything we've done so far is correct. Again, I'm gonna start it again, click my application, the notes splash screen displays, and then from there on we are just gonna show the login screen. Alright, that's pretty much it. Alright guys, so unfortunately the video is already long enough, but I'm gonna end it here. I think that's all we needed for the splash screen. We probably might visit it again, I'm not quite sure. I think we're pretty much done with whatever we needed to do within here. So now I'm gonna start off, because there's validations that we need to do on the mobile app. I'm gonna start with the login screen, because the login screen is much simpler than the registration screen. The registration screen has a lot of fields in it, and so therefore I think I'll do that afterwards. So for now I just want to start with the login screen, so that we can pretty much also start with the testing to see if when the user is logged in, we're gonna set that initial value to this initial value of authenticated to true, and then you'll see that after we've logged in, we'll be able to log into the app again, but not needing to authenticate and things like that. Alright, so but I'll explain everything else within that video. For now, again, I think I'll end it here. Thanks again, guys, for watching. I really appreciate the support. Again, if you've liked what you've seen so far, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And I guess I'll be seeing you guys within the next video. Thanks again. Cheers for now.